Hi, I'm Nina, and I'm a project officer with the IRC's Emergency Unit. Over the past year, I've been working closely with the Emergency Unit's technical coordinators as well as advisors from the technical units to revise our sector toolkits for emergency programs. I'm happy to share this revision with you today, Step 2.0. The following presentation will provide a brief overview of the toolkits, what tools are included, how these resources are meant to be used, and how they can help us achieve the IRC's strategic objectives in a crisis. Thank you for watching. Let's begin with the question, what is Step 2.0? Step 2.0 toolkits are a multi-sectoral resource designed to assist the IRC's emergency responders, whether they are part of the emergency response team, internal or external rosters, or a country emergency team, to meet the IRC's strategic emergency objectives. Each toolkit is a collection of essential project documents, which field users can download and modify to fit their context, saving valuable time and ensuring consistently high-quality, accountable programming during the most high-pressure moments of a response. Step 2.0 is comprised of 19 toolkits. Each toolkit contains an emergency project that can be implemented as a standalone intervention or in combination with other STEP projects. These projects have all been implemented in some form or another by IRC emergency response teams in the past, and have been selected as part of the IRC's core emergency programming because they have proven effective in responding to urgent needs that most frequently arise during the acute phase of an emergency. Step 2.0 projects cover all major emergency sectors and address outcomes in all of the IRC's priority outcome areas under the Outcomes and Evidence Framework. First, let's take a look at the Step 2.0 projects by sector. The Economic Recovery and Development Unit hosts 3 projects. The Agricultural Inputs Project facilitates access to essential farming supplies to help agrarian communities maintain stable crop yields throughout emergencies. The Household Food Access Project provides cash, vouchers, in-kind assistance, or some combination thereof to ensure that households are able to consistently secure sufficient food. Beyond food access and production, the Cash for Basic Needs project aims to help beneficiaries meet a range of other basic needs by providing them with cash and/or vouchers to spend on what they need most. Under the newly formed Education Unit, 2 STEP projects address educational opportunities for young children and adolescents in emergencies. The Education in Emergencies project works to improve educational opportunity for school-age children, providing support for weakened educational services such as mentoring and material support. The Youth-Focused Cash Transfer and Recovery and Resilience Discussion Groups project focuses on reinforcing older youth's ability to meet basic needs by offering cash transfers to participants of skills-building discussion groups. While officially housed under Education, this project has strong links to ERD programming. There are currently 6 toolkits housed within the Health Unit. The Implementing the MISP Plus project puts the minimum initial service package into action with the goal of improving access to reproductive health services for crisis-affected populations. There are also 2 health-related toolkits still pending, as a new emergency health strategy is being developed. They will likely cover primary health care and nutrition, and will be posted along with the rest of the toolkits as soon as they've been finalized. A set of 3 environmental health projects also falls under the Health Unit. The Safe Water project is designed to facilitate access to clean, safe water during the acute phase of an emergency. Similarly, the Emergency Sanitation project facilitates access and use of appropriate sanitation solutions during an emergency. The Hygiene Promotion project complements the water and sanitation projects by providing key hygiene-related NFIs as well as education and awareness-building activities that foster positive hygiene behaviors and protect against wash-related diseases. It's worth noting that while each STEP project can technically be implemented on its own, this particular set of projects is most frequently delivered together as a comprehensive WASH package. There is 1 STEP project that falls under the Emergency Preparedness and Response Unit. The Non-Food Item Distribution project distributes goods in kind that help crisis-affected populations meet their most urgent survival needs and provide improved protection and dignity. There are 7 STEP 2.0 projects that live within the newly formed Violence Prevention and Response Unit, or VPRU. 3 projects focus specifically on the protection of children during humanitarian emergencies. The Children and Youth Case Management Project seeks to identify children particularly at risk of harm or exploitation and protect their safety and well-being through individual case management. The Safe Healing and Learning Spaces Project focuses on providing school-aged children with safe learning environments where educational activities and psychosocial support can be provided during emergencies. The Families Make the Difference project builds on the parenting section of the SHLS project just mentioned, and is meant to mitigate parenting risks more prevalent during the stress of an emergency, such as abuse, neglect, and child-related negative coping mechanisms. These next 3 projects are centered on safeguarding women and girls during emergencies. The GBV Case Management Project provides case management for survivors of gender-based violence, as well as referrals to other types of more specialized care. The GBV Psychosocial Support and Networks Project takes a community-based approach to psychosocial support and strives to build and strengthen networks among women and girls, aiming to improve safety and overall psychosocial well-being. The GBV Risk Reduction Project engages communities and humanitarian actors alike to ensure that preventative measures are being put in place to minimize threats to the safety of women and girls. The Final Step Project, also under the VPRU, focuses on rights and the rule of law within emergency contexts. The PROL Information, Legal, and Risk Reduction Project seeks to mitigate human rights abuses in conflict or natural disaster by monitoring key protection concerns among the crisis-affected population, promoting awareness around refugee and IDP rights, and providing referral and/or direct legal case management services. Now that we have looked at the STEP projects in terms of sectors, let's pivot and think about them in terms of the IRC 2020 commitment to outcomes-driven programming. As part of the STEP 2.0 revision process, project log frames have been designed to lay the foundation for achieving outcomes in the post or protracted emergency phase across the IRC's priority outcome areas: health, safety, education, economic well-being, and power. It's true that acute emergency response does not generally allow for programming with the scale, scope, or duration to affect change at the highest outcome level. That said, we want to be sure our emergency work is contributing in a conscious and deliberate way towards the outcomes prioritized by the IRC. With that in mind, all projects address at least one OEF outcome. Many address more than one and span multiple outcome areas. Let's take a closer look at the resources available within each toolkit. Toolkits are broken down into 8 folders, roughly organized around the project cycle, each containing project documents to support that phase. Some core documents are found in every single toolkit. Others are optional and included as appropriate to the project. First, we have assessment support materials that can be used at various phases of a needs assessment. These materials can be used to inform the content of a multi-sectoral assessment or to collect supplementary sector-specific information from primary or secondary sources. There is also guidance on how assessment findings link to certain programmatic decisions later on. Next, we have proposal development documents that outline many important elements of a project's design. They include a project log frame, a skeleton monitoring plan, and in accordance with the principles of the EPRU's Emergency Accountability Framework, information on beneficiary targeting, client participation and feedback, as well as the integration of key cross-cutting themes. And because all STEP projects will be adapted in some way, guidance is also provided on how each project can be appropriately tailored to fit the response context. The materials in this folder cover much of the information requested in a standard proposal. The core technical guidance and language provided here can be adapted quickly and reduce proposal turnaround time. The Scale, Staff, and Budget section lays out the different scale scenarios possible for each project. Based on these scenarios, scalable budget outlines and staffing plans are provided as a starting point for HR and grant staff to work from. The Human Resources folder contains documents to support the staffing plan laid out in the previous section: job descriptions, a project org chart, as well as interview and test materials, the goal being to facilitate recruitment processes that often slow down response time. The Training section pulls together materials to support the training of new field staff. Each project includes a technical basics training designed to provide the key programming principles and essential project information needed to get staff functional as quickly as possible. Other components include more in-depth materials that can be used at a later point in the response as appropriate. The Monitoring and Tracking section provides documents to facilitate strong monitoring from the outset of the IRC's response. An emergency-adapted version of the Monitoring for Action indicator matrix breaks down the indicators in the project log frame and outlines the details of data collection. The means of verification documents listed in the matrix are provided in the Monitoring Tools document when available. When not available, we've made every effort to offer a similar tool that is technically sound and can be lightly modified to capture the necessary information. As data is collected on project indicators, the indicator tracking sheet is a tool to consolidate that data in one location, in a format that clearly shows overall project progress and highlights any emerging gaps in a timely manner. It should be noted that the M&E section of the EAF will be revamped as part of the EAF revision process currently underway. This will likely result in the development of Comet Lite, an emergency-adapted version of Comet that would likely eventually replace the Excel-based indicator tracking sheet. The Evidence Review section addresses the IRC 2020 commitment to evidence-based programming. One component is a review of the available evidence for comparable interventions in humanitarian settings. This was compiled using the Humanitarian Emergencies Gap Map, recently developed as part of the Outcomes and Evidence Initiative. Given the scarcity of rigorous impact evaluations in emergencies, there's a complementary document in which experienced practitioners include any gray literature or past field experience that has also informed STEP project choices. Finally, reference materials includes an implementation resource document, which is a collection of project materials that have been developed during past responses and can be adapted to fit the context at hand. The Technical References document assembles the source documents that have shaped the STEP project design. These may be useful for additional background reading or the reference section of a proposal. Now that you have a better understanding of what STEP is, let's revisit who all of these tools and resources are meant for. STEP's intended field users are the IRC's frontline emergency responders, including the EPRU's emergency response team, their colleagues from the internal and external emergency rosters, as well as newly formed country emergency teams. Relevant technical advisors should always be consulted to ensure appropriate use and adaptation of these STEP tools. As mentioned, the toolkits are meant for the acute phase of an emergency response, generally the 3 months or so following the onset of the emergency. Following the needs assessment, the appropriate STEP projects should be selected during Day 21 strategic planning, about 3 weeks into the response, and rolled out as quickly as possible thereafter. The projects have been designed for a 3-month implementation period, but may be extended depending on the context. I hope that throughout this brief introduction, it has already become clear why we have STEP and why we promote its use as the core of IRC's emergency programming. I'd like to reiterate a few of the most important reasons. First, STEP 2.0 toolkits have been developed ahead of an acute emergency, so technical contributors have had time to reflect and make sure that the project's designs are evidence-based and technically sound. Second, time and attention has been paid to integrating participation, feedback, and monitoring measures into project design in order to strengthen accountability when the projects are put into action. Third, these projects are tried and tested. The IRC has implemented all of them in some form or another in previous responses, and they proved effective at addressing fundamental needs. Fourth, having core project tools and documents already compiled into one centralized location can dramatically decrease time wasted recreating tools that already exist or hunting down information and materials. Fifth, each of the STEP 2.0 project log frames indicates which OEF outcomes it is working towards. That can help existing country programs select emergency programming that aligns well with the outcomes prioritized in their strategic action plans. Or conversely, this may assist country programs established post-emergency to define their priorities during SAP planning and development. So how can you make proper use of these resources? The downloadable and modifiable STEP toolkits have applications throughout the project cycle, though are particularly useful for guiding rapid and technically sound decision-making at the project design and proposal development phase. It is important to remember that resources are not intended to be copied and pasted indiscriminately. STEP projects should be thoughtfully adapted to fit each specific context, a process that should be done with support from the appropriate technical advisors. The toolkits are now available through the links below, in downloadable and modifiable formats. For those of you with limited or variable connectivity, the toolkits can be synced to your computer through Box Sync for offline access. We hope that you will take advantage of these resources and encourage you to